For my global collaboration project, I chose to try to find a partner for my fourth period, 11th grade English 3 students. It's a standard English class, and I figured they don't normally get the opportunity to participate in projects like this, and I was right when I made that assumption. And I wound up being lucky enough to actually find a partner class in Finland, in Naantali, at the Maijamaki school. The group of students that we wound up partnering with were an 8th grade group of students who were learning English as a second language. The first part of the project that we did was just to start a pen pal exchange. And the way that we did this is the students at the Majamaki school would write their emails to my students, but they didn't have Google Drives. So they wrote their letters and their teacher emailed each letter to me, and my students wrote back and kept a record of all the letters in an ongoing Google Doc so they could see the exchanges that they had had. By the end of the project, my students had exchanged letters at least 4 times each, and some of them want to write one last letter back to their pen pals that they plan to send with me when I go to Finland. I actually got in touch with the teacher, and she lives close to Turku and wants to meet up with us when we go visit there. I think that for many of my students, they had never had a pen pal before, so this was a new experience for them, and I think that they really, really enjoyed it. Many of my students were very excited to start the pen pal exchange with the students in Finland. A lot of them had never heard of Finland or weren't really sure where it was. Some had heard of Finland because we have an exchange student from Finland at Cedar Ridge right now, so some of them know the girl, Sophia, that we have at Cedar Ridge High School. And these are just some pictures of my students working on their letters back to their pen pals in Finland. We would usually write back on a Friday, so it was a fun Friday activity for them to do that they really looked forward to. Before I talk about the next thing, I do want to mention at first I had a lot of difficulty finding a class to collaborate with early on, but then I was able to make this connection using ePals to the teacher in Finland. It was very exciting to make that connection. After we had been exchanging letters, I think the first 2 times, the students in the Finland class made a Kahoot about Finland and about their region for my kids to play, and my students really enjoyed playing Kahoots. They always love playing Kahoots. And so these are just some screenshots of that. Here's an example of some of the questions that were in their Kahoot. What's the capital of Finland? Who is the president of Finland? Okay, and they had some other fun facts about Moomin World and their specific region. When they were doing the pen pal exchange, it was really interesting to see the similarities that the students shared with their pen pals, and I think they found it very interesting to see how similar they are, even though they're in different parts of the world. A lot of them had common interests in fishing or playing video games or riding ATVs. A lot of them liked the same musical artists, and one of my pen pal partners bonded over their passionate distaste for Donald Trump. And then another student was telling his pen pal about hip hop, whatever that is. I don't know. But I think that through that they just really learned a lot of important values about cultural understanding and about communicating with someone who may be different than them but also pretty similar. The students in Finland also made a video about their school for my students to watch near the end of our exchange, and my kids loved getting to see a face with a name of their pen pals, so I'll show just a brief clip of their video. And this is the school. My students were shocked to find out how much smaller the school that they were exchanging with in Finland was. I think it had a population of about 400 students compared to the 1,200 that we have at Cedar Ridge. And they were interested to see, the different rooms that they had at the Finland school. I think that their favorite part was innocence. And here they got to actually see the students that they had been exchanging with.
What do you usually come to school?
And hear a little more about their hobbies. Okay. My students decided to do the Where I'm From poems like we did at our last meeting, and I think that my students really enjoyed making these Where I'm From poems just for themselves, but the fact that they knew they would be sharing them with their partners in Finland, I think made them enjoy it even more. And so we did send these poems to the teacher in Finland, and she liked them a lot, and she decided to show them to all of her English classes, not just the class that we were doing the exchange with. And here are just a few examples that my students made.
Who am I? I am from toy cars that beg to be laid upon picture frames, fruit scattered all over the place. I am from soccer balls, smelling the plants across the yard, from flies to mosquitoes, where life was born. I am from the park where balls fly everywhere, houses near and joys of tear, where trees surround the neighborhood, animals with harmony, people driving carelessly. I am from pizza, where rice and beans are overrated, where tamales were created, pozole which makes you feel fabricated.
And another example.
Where I'm from, by Lewin Fletcher. I'm from swinging from the porch swing, sipping on Mama's iced tea. From Mama cooking in the kitchen, making everything with grease for breakfast. I'm from beer can chicken, sitting on the homemade grill Dad made, and Mama inside fixing mashed potatoes. From tilling up the backyard to Papa who planted his famous tomatoes. I'm from mowing the grass at 6 years old, watching Daddy work on the old Pontiac, cussing like a sailor.
One more example.
Where I'm From by Cynthia Perez. I'm from Barbies and high chairs so that I don't get down and run around the living room with spaghetti hands and a saggy diaper. I am from my pink Barbie electric toy car with my kitty riding in the back, rolling across the green grass while Daddy cooks on the grill for my 4th birthday party. I am from the train tracks down the Roxborough Street. The streetlights I squinched my eyes at as they blurred back at me.
Okay. And this was the culminating kind of last exchange for my students to send their Where I'm From poems, and many of them did put pictures of themselves to share with their partners in Finland. And I think overall my students learned a lot about just collaborating with another country, and I think that they realized that they're not as different as they maybe thought that they were from other places in the world before. And I know that many of them after this project want to go to Finland. They wrote about that in their letters. to their students, and they want to learn Finnish. When we were playing the Kahoot that they made, one of my students looked up the word for winner in Finnish, and that was his name for the Kahoot game. He was really proud to tell me that as he left class that day. And I think definitely in the future I plan to collaborate my classes, whether it be with Finnish classes or other classes around the world. I think this pen pal exchange was an awesome thing for students to do, to get to share more about themselves and have an audience for that. And I think they loved it. And I think they learned a lot from it and definitely broadened their horizons through this project.